Hello, I'm Sue Mans and I'm President of the RTPI for 2020. It is a real pleasure to be delivering the opening address for the 2020 Young Planners Virtual Conference, and thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this inspiring event. A career in planning is, in my view, and indeed the view of many planners, quite possibly one of the most important jobs that society can task anyone with. I can't think of many other professions where the decisions that we take and the policies that we put in place have such a lasting influence on society, the environment and the quality of life for generations to come. You are the future of our profession, and having met, albeit virtually, with many of you over the past year, I am in absolutely no doubt that the future of the profession is safe in the dedicated, talented and innovative hands of our young planners. It seems much longer than a year since the last Young Planners Conference in Newcastle, and what a lot has happened in that year. The world we live in today is very different to the one that most of us envisaged at the start of 2020. I certainly didn't have a global pandemic on my list of challenges that the profession would need to grapple with this year. This year will undoubtedly be spoken about by many historians for years to come. But I hope that they will be saying that this is the year when planners sowed the seeds of the foundations for recovery, and that it was a greener, place-based recovery, which not only responded to the lessons learned from the pandemic, but also to the challenges that we were grappling with this time last year, most notably climate change. These have not gone away. So, back to 2020, and the year started very much as expected. But within a few short days, life changed with the arrival of COVID-19. Digital working became the only way of working. This had a big impact on the RTPI, just as it did for many organisations and indeed for society. Events, meetings, training and CPD sessions all had to go online. One of the first big events to take place virtually was the Planning Awards for Excellence in 2020, in which it was my absolute pleasure to announce Robin Skerritt as the winner of the Young Planner of the Year 2020. Many other virtual events followed, including, of course, the Young Planners Conference itself. When facing the unexpected, planners and the planning profession have shown themselves to be innovative, resilient and adaptable. We have kept the planning system functioning throughout the pandemic and also learned some interesting lessons as a result. Our experiences of lockdown brought into sharp focus the strengths and weaknesses of our places and way of life. And as we look to the future, we must not forget what it has taught us about the importance of sustainable, resilient and inclusive places. Back in January, in those distant days when we could meet in person, RTPI Chair Sue Bridge launched a new corporate strategy to cover the next 10 years. The strategy was informed by extensive engagement with members and provides a clear sense of direction for the profession. The strategy has 4 pillars, which support our core objectives of influence, members and learning, and will ensure that we remain relevant and accessible to our members and to society. Work began on some of the key actions that form part of the strategy and would underpin the future of the profession. And I want to talk very briefly about 4 key elements of the corporate strategy that we have particularly been working on this year. The Change Action Plan, Investing in Volunteers, Invest and Prosper, and our Climate Action Plan. First, the Change Action Plan. This is all about equality, diversity and inclusivity, something about which I am passionate. Back in the 1980s, when I became a chartered planner, women only made up 15% of the planning profession. Now it's 39%, much better, but still some way to go. BAME members are similarly underrepresented. The lack of diversity is greater at senior levels. In essence, the higher you climb, the wider the gap. This can't be right. Talent does not rest disproportionately with one section of our membership. The imbalance matters, and it matters deeply. Lack of diversity at decision-making levels materially affect the decisions, and in the case of planning, those decisions affect the environment. We all use spaces and places, but we all do it differently, and the way we do it changes throughout our lives. With complex issues such as those tackled by planners, it is just not possible for one person or a group of people from similar backgrounds to have all the relevant insights. Seeing things from different perspectives leads to more informed and sometimes different decisions. In 2020, the RTPI Action Plan, Change, was launched to help guide both members and employers as they work to achieve a more balanced profession. And as equality, diversity and inclusivity has risen up the agenda and being talked about more widely in society, so planners themselves have stepped up to raise awareness of the issues and to bring about change. Many of you will have heard of Women in Planning Network, which was founded in 2012 and has already made a massive difference through the CPD and networking events that it has delivered. Well, 2020 also saw the launch of 2 new diversity networks. The BAME Planners Network, which was launched in September, and then followed at the end of October by the launch of the Neurodiverse Planners Network. Change is happening and will happen, and in doing so, it will greatly enrich our profession for the benefit of society. My thanks to everyone who is involved in all 3 networks. Moving on to volunteering. Over 2,000 of our RTPI members volunteer their time to support the Institute. This may be through young planner committees, of which many of you may be part, regional committees, national committees, or taking on one of the many other roles. The volunteer strategy sets out how the RTPI will support those who volunteer. And I can say through personal experience that volunteering is an enjoyable and immensely rewarding thing to do. And I'd like to thank all those who volunteer their time for the RTPI for the benefit of planning and the profession. It is very much appreciated. So moving on to Invest and Prosper. This report was commissioned to inform the RTPI response to the Comprehensive Spending Review in 2020. The aim was to demonstrate in economic terms the positive contribution that planning makes across the UK. The postponement of the CSR means that we actually have longer to promote its findings. What is clear is that without significant investment, the government's ambitions for the planning system cannot be realised. So, Invest and Prosper identifies the need for a new planning delivery fund of 500 million over 4 years, which would direct investment into 9 sub-funds to enable investment in specific government priorities. The funding should be ring-fenced and distributed fairly across all local authorities according to the number of people who live there, the scale of development pressure and the current levels of resourcing. And finally, climate action. In September 2020, the RTPI published its own climate action plan, which sets out how the Institute aims to become the world's first net zero membership body by reducing its own net carbon emissions to zero by 2025. What a first! And now to plan the world we need. This campaign was launched at the Plan Alive in June. It's targeted at UK governments, the media, stakeholders, influencers, and indeed anyone who has an interest in the future of our places and spaces. Its purpose is to promote the key role of planners and planning in creating a better, greener post-COVID-19 world. Hashtag plan the world we need. It emphasises the importance of planners and a place-based decision-making approach to guide economic stimulus post-COVID in order to maximise investment in public and active transport, healthy placemaking, renewable energy and smart grid technology, resilient infrastructure, climate mitigation, investment in communities, a national programme of building retrofit and the right housing in the right places. Our Plan the World campaign has just passed its first 100 days and the impacts are already being felt. Not least in the recent white paper, The Future of Planning, where it was used to frame one of the sections. There's been significant interest in the campaign from MPs and Lords. Campaign language has been used to frame meeting requests and the documents have been used alongside white paper analysis for our engagement with parliamentarians. A series of research papers have also been published by the policy team. The messages of the RTPI campaign have resonated across communities, across nations, across the world. And I very much hope that when these historians look back to 2020, whether it be in 2025, 2030 or beyond, we can all look back and say, what has changed? And the fact that Plan the World campaign we need did make a difference. A survey of members a couple of years ago revealed an overwhelming view that we needed to be more visible and become more campaigning. Well, in 2020 we've done both, as you've seen. Planning seems to have appeared on a weekly basis in the press and across the social media. Debates are focused on the proposed planning reforms, permitted development rights, how to deliver better designed housing, affordable housing, the decline of the house street. I could go on. The digital world has enabled us to reach out well beyond our own profession And at this point, I want to thank all of you who've connected with me on LinkedIn. It is great to see people reading my posts. In one case, almost 20,000. Looking forward, it is clear that the virtual world has also had many benefits. For those with access to technology, it is in many ways a more inclusive world. Many members have said that they have been able to virtually attend events which they would not otherwise have been able to do. Audiences for RTPI webinars and conferences have been higher than traditional events, sometimes by a factor of 10. I hope the same is true for this first virtual Young Planners Conference. And so a huge thanks to the organising committee for all the work that you have put into making this event happen. Unlike previous events, it will be open to many to watch on the RTPI YouTube channel for the weeks and months ahead. So I want to thank you all and wish you all a very productive and engaging conference. Your first virtual Young Planners Conference. I have no doubt it will be an inspiring event and a great success. Thank you.